So it's been about a week with the Samsung Galaxy Book4 Edge, and as a MacBook Pro user, this computer really surprised me, both in a good way and in a bad way. Now look, I'll be honest, if you're looking for a bunch of specs, graphs, and charts, you've come to the wrong review video. My review is going to be based on my experience with this laptop as a normal, everyday user, kinda like you. So first, let me go ahead and say that I've been using MacBooks for around 15 years of my life, and this is my first time experiencing an ARM Windows laptop. In fact, it's really the main reason I even got this computer. Now, this is the mid-tier Snapdragon X Elite with the 16 gigabytes of RAM and 512 gigabytes of SSD. Total price, after tax, about $1,450. Now, since I love tech, I hate being tied to one computer, but from, my experience and my workflow, MacBooks were always the better machines when looking at them as an entire package. The speakers, the power, the display, the battery life, the keyboard, so on and so forth. So I was really hoping that this computer would kind of introduce me to Windows and, for me to get a similar experience to MacBooks because, ARM versus ARM, right? Well, actually, let me first start off with the good things about this laptop because it does have a ton of good things about it. Well, first of all, it is crazy thin, light, and the build quality is amazing. It's not flimsy, it doesn't feel cheap, it really feels like a very, very solid and substantial device. The keyboard feels crazy good to type on, and I actually prefer it over the MacBook Pro keyboard. The travel is very good and it's quieter than typing on the MacBook, but it still gives you that nice tactile feel without being spongy. It's not spongy, but it's not clicky, at least audibly. It's kind of like right there in the middle. I absolutely love typing on this computer. Now the keyboard backlight is also done very well and it's very precise, and I just love the subtle blue tint to the lights. I do wish it was RGB, but hey, at least it's not some plain, boring white color. I like that nice blue kind of tint to it. It looks nice. Now, the display is also incredible. I mean, it's a Samsung panel, right? What more could you ask for? It does go up to a 120 Hertz, and it just looks amazing no matter what you're doing. Now, like I said, this is the 14-inch version, and the resolution is a very nice and crisp 2880 by 1800. Now, the HDR performance is not great, but it's not bad. You do have 500 nits of HDR peak brightness, and I think it looks pretty good, but I do wish it was brighter because, the whole point of HDR is that the brights are very bright, the darks are very dark, nothing is overexposed, nothing is underexposed, unless it was, recorded that way. But, the brightness, I just wish there was more brightness. That's basically it. Now, one leg up that this computer has over my MacBook Pro is that this computer is also a touchscreen, and I actually found myself to be using it quite a bit more than I thought, which I guess is not surprising because I do have an iPad, and sometimes I use the trackpad, sometimes I just use the touchscreen. So it's not really shocking that I've been using a touchscreen on this computer as well. It's pretty fun, and it's not really a deal breaker if a computer doesn't have it. But it's not really like one of those things that's like, ooh, I definitely need to get it, right? So what about the battery life? Well, I don't know. Like the battery life on the optimized power setting is pretty good, and you should get around 4 hours of screen on time. At least that's what I'm getting. Of course, if you have the power set to maximize battery life, it will get even better from there. Now, Samsung, is quoting 22 hours of battery life, and I'm not sure how they managed to do that. They say it's with video playback, and I'm not sure if it's video playback like a video that's already been downloaded to the computer or if it's streaming, but I couldn't get anywhere near 22 hours. I mean, like I said, on average, 4 hours. But again, do take this with a grain of salt because, battery life does depend heavily on the user, and, the way I use my computer may be different than the way you use your computer. So you might get more or, you might get less. Now let's go ahead and talk about the port situation. Now you do have a headphone jack, you do have a HDMI 2.1 capable of 4K 60. On this side you have two USB-C 4 ports. Now I do wish Samsung had a dedicated charging port so we can at least have two free USB-C ports, but unfortunately that's just not the case. So if you're charging the computer, you only really have like one USB port available. This can obviously be fixed by, buying a dongle, but again, for the price, right, I do wish we had at least one more USB-C port available, so you have two while charging. I think that would be like the perfect sweet spot, but I mean, that's just my opinion. What do you guys think? Okay, so now things will get a little spicy. Let's talk about the things that I really don't like, and honestly, the things that I hate. So coming from a, MacBook, the thing I hate the most is the trackpad. This trackpad is not a haptic trackpad, but rather the old style trackpad that has like the physical clicks. Even worse, it's one of those diving board trackpads, so clicks are easier toward the bottom, or they're very easy toward the bottom. Then once you go and try clicking toward the middle of the trackpad, it gets a little bit harder, and then at the top it is impossible because, well, there are no buttons there. So I just really don't like it. I strongly believe that at this price point, this laptop should have it. I mean, heck, even the iPad Magic Keyboard, which is $300, even this has a haptic trackpad. So again, for the price point, this is the mid tier, and it's already almost $1,500. If you get the 16 one, you're looking at what, close to $2,000 for an old trackpad? Nah, I don't know. I don't like it. I don't like it. Now, another thing I hate, arguably more than a trackpad, are the speakers, but don't take my word for it. I'm not even going to say anything. Listen to this comparison for yourself, and you be the judge, okay? So here's my 11-inch iPad Pro, and I'll be comparing the sound to the Galaxy Book4 Edge. Now, the Galaxy Book4 Edge is on 100% volume, and so is the MacBook Pro. So let's go ahead and start with this. So I've been exclusively a MacBook Pro user for a majority of my entire adult life. The last time I've used... And now let's go ahead and do this. So I've been exclusively a MacBook Pro user for a majority of my entire adult life. So much better. Now look, I have absolutely no idea how Samsung thought this was acceptable at this price point. And I'm just being honest. I'm not hating on Samsung. I'm not, trying to attack them, but rather constructive criticism. How in the world is it possible for a 14-inch laptop to sound much worse than an 11-inch iPad that's only 5.3 millimeters thin? The laptop sounds completely flat with literally no bass at all. All you really hear are the highs. It sounds bad, which kind of sucks because the display is freaking gorgeous. When you look at this display, I can't even talk right. When you look at this display, you want to watch content, you want to watch movies, but the second you hear the speakers, you're like, nah, never mind. I don't want to watch anymore. The speakers, in fact, are probably the worst thing about this laptop, which may or may not be a good thing. Look, if you live near a Best Buy or any electronics store, I highly recommend checking this computer out for yourself in person before you buy it, okay? Believe me when I tell you this. Now, there is one more thing that I don't really understand. It's the fans. Like, they run at full volume when I'm just web browsing, and then they go down, and then they ramp back up. Again, listen to yourself. I actually caught it on video. So, can you guys hear that? It just keeps ramping up and ramping down. All I'm doing is just web browsing, watching, testing out the display, watching HDR video. And this is as quiet as it usually gets. It makes no sense. I'm just web browsing, and the fans, they're off sometimes, and then they just ramp up all of a sudden and stay on for 15 minutes. And then go back down, and then it just keeps repeating. It's so weird. I'm not used to that. Now, it was under my impression that, an ARM computer should be very power efficient and not get really hot. I don't know why the fans are ramping up like crazy, especially while web browsing. I haven't heard the fans on my MacBook Pro ever while web browsing. In fact, the only time they come on is if I'm editing heavy video. So, I don't know, I wouldn't say it's a deal breaker, but it's just something that I'm not really used to being a MacBook user. I mean, I don't know, I was kind of hoping that since it's an ARM chip, it'll be less noisy. I don't know, I don't like it. Now, the good news is, aside from those two major issues and one, that's that small fan issue, aside from those two, this laptop is actually, really good. And, as long as, if Samsung fixed those two major issues, I strongly believe this would be the best choice for Windows users that actually want to use an ARM chip. Now, when it comes to gaming, Obviously, this computer is not a gaming computer, but I did try, you know, just for fun. I tried to run XDefiant on it, and even at the lowest settings possible, this computer could not handle it. But again, that's not really surprising. This computer is not a gaming computer. It's not meant to be a gaming computer, so yeah. But I just wanted to test it out, just, you know, just for fun. So yeah, guys, it's been you know, about a week with this laptop, probably a little bit more by now. And I'm not sure if I'll keep it just because, again, of the speakers and a trackpad. I don't even really care about the fans all that much. Again, I do wish they were quiet, but that's not even my main concern. You know, the speakers and a trackpad, they really kind of kill it for me, which sucks because, again, the computer overall is really good. I mean, great performance. It's very smooth. The 120 hertz is amazing. The battery life, you know, even though I couldn't get the 22 hours that Samsung claimed, I think 4 hours. It's not bad. I use my computers, laptops plugged in 90% of the time anyway, so it's not that big of a deal for me personally. Now, if you travel a lot, you're in the car, on the airplane, maybe get a power bank. That might be your best bet. But that's kind of it. I think like I said, I don't know if I'll keep it. I'll probably return it. I think I'll get the Microsoft Surface laptop. That seems to be like the better one overall, I think. But let me know your opinions down below. If you guys did enjoy today's video, definitely click that like button. And if you're new here, consider subscribing. This was Mark from Mark's Tech. Adios.